I'm going to talk about how the Growers Exchange used advertising to boost Southern California as a destination, whether intentional or unintentional.
Son of a gun. Go on.
Keep working on that. The real heyday was from 1915 to 1950, so I'm going to concentrate, pun intended, mostly on that. Oh, Sunkist, like the orange soda? Yeah, but also like not even.
I mean, come on.
Los Angeles really is a weird place to me because much longer than the movie industry has been sending the homing beacon out, drawing people in, Southern California has been luring people to the Pacific. Yeah. People from the Midwest and East Coast had flocked westward, not just because of Manifest Destiny or Westward Ho, but they chased this illusion of an idyllic paradise they saw from the labels of orange crates, which was all a creation. All of this wanting to come to Southern California was like planned, which is really weird to me.
It's weird that like, you know, you could see the wrapper of like
an orange, yeah.
Yeah, but imagine today seeing like a picture on the back of a Snickers bar and being like they're going to move to Hershey, Pennsylvania.
With California fruit crate labels, not just fruit was being sold, but like any good Don Draper pitch, you were buying the first step to your better self. Fruit crate labels not only sold oranges, they sold real estate. Perfect. It's a little bit different, but it's perfect.
Peggy, it's an orange. It's perfect.
It's a little bit different, but it's perfect. At the time...
Peggy, I need these for alcohol. For alcoholic reasons.
I'm going to ferment them. A little bit different, but it's perfect. At the time, nothing defined Southern California better than oranges. In the 19th century, as you were talking about, most Americans didn't even know what an orange was. In the early 1800s, some fruit growers working on their own groves. You talked about this already.
What?
Individually wrapped.
But say it again, because the individually wrapping really became kind of, as I understand it, was kind of like, it's individually wrapped. Like this is something special.
But the thing about that, I'll get into that later, but I'll just say it now. They wanted to step away from the individually wrapped fruit because they wanted to sell it as everyone can eat it. It's not special. It's not a luxury item. It's every day. Eat it every day. Eat a lot of them. Come on.
I'll bite right into one. Look, listen, poor guy's eating one.
What is this, Starburst? I gotta unwrap each one? No, put them all in a bowl.
Bobbing for oranges never took off.
Throughout much of the push for Americans to consume oranges, there was this insistence that like, hey, yeah, let's make this an everyday thing. Mm-hmm. Visualizing California in those days, like the mid 19th century, was like already an alien concept to people in the Midwest and East Coast until an 1884 novel Ramona was released, written by Massachusetts native Helen Hunt Jackson, who had spent time out here. She was a longtime friend of Emily Dickinson. The novel was set in old California amongst like the ruins of the Spanish missions that were rendered inactive when the Mexicans defeated the Spanish for the area. Consult Los Angeles Year One. The narrative depicts the life of the fading Spanish order, the oppression of the Native American tribes here, and the invasion of white settlers from the perspective of an illegitimate orphan, Ramona. In the novel, California... I'm just happy that we're both on the same page. We didn't know the lyrics, but we knew how it went. In the novel, California is like a romantic, dramatic paradise, and soon literary tours were made to show off the, quote, real life locations, and it boosted tourism, even though Jackson died without making clear where the locations were actually based on.
The original esoteric.
This was a hotel, too. Great. That's not true. I'm just being
if Ramona did like mini golf, she would come here.
People have ponytails here, too. Hey, he's right. The book was released a year after Henry Huntington gained full control of a number of smaller railroads, creating the Southern Pacific Sunset Route, which connected, like you said, Southern California with many other parts of the world. Consult, you're killing me, Larry. The railroads were used for promoting California as a winter vacation destination to all those on the East Coast that didn't know better, because in the winters here, there was a bit warmer, so you can...
A bit. Like 80 degrees warmer.
Yeah, about 75 compared to 20. So around the 1890s, as you said, citrus packing houses wanted to distinguish their fruit crates from other wooden crates that were being shipped out at the same time, and you wanted to make yours a little bit different. Previously, the growers would stencil the names on the heads of their crates, but now paper labels had entered the game, thus commercial advertising was a possibility. The first labels were small circles of paper around 6 inches in diameter, and they were placed at the center of a stencil design. Those circle labels were soon replaced with the larger rectangular labels, which are 11 by 10, and each packing house had a name to identify their product. The common thing was sunshine and landscapes, and they were meant to sell scenes. Even in those early days, they were selling more than just oranges with the ads. They were selling sunshine, health, and wealth. They were trying to rap at the time. Nobody knew what they were talking about. I mean, lay a beat down. What does that mean?
What rhymes with orange?
As one writer puts it, the hallmarks of Southern California: health, wealth, and sunshine. It was edible gold. They even called it golden apples for a while. There was a brand called
yeah, that's right.
There was brands like Victoria brand, Gypsy Queen, Elk brand, Hollywood, Highbrow, Blue Top, Sure No Seeds, which is one name, Shining Star, and Warrior, to name a few. But not all of them had anything to do with oranges or fruit or California. Some of them just used images that would catch attention. Bunny brand had a large, ominous drawing of a stoic-looking rabbit with a small, individually wrapped orange at the bottom. It's really scary.
If the listener heard that screaming noise, that's the bunny.
I'm going to upload that picture for sure, because the bunny just looks like a terrifying ghost of a rabbit that's huge, and then there's a little orange at the bottom. Like, I'm scared.
Some of the weird pictures I've seen of like a boy standing next to like a 40-foot orange and that sort of thing.
Yeah, like a kid smiling and there's like he's missing teeth, and there's just a grove behind him. Like, all right. Athlete brand oranges had 3 athletes running towards a finish line. Royal Knight had an image of a proud knight on a horse with a castle behind him, and in the distance was an orange grove. Co-ed brand oranges out of Claremont had an image of a pretty college graduate in cap and gown smiling, no orange in sight. In the 30s, there was a fruit crate label with W.C. Fields on it, using an image from the film It's a Gift. The film itself is about a New Jersey grocer who moves to California because he heard that he inherited some money and wants to fulfill his dream of owning a California orange grove. It's one of his better ones.
Is his nose the orange?
That's the joke. Oh man, the twist ending. More important than selling oranges, which the crate was full of, they were selling the origin of these oranges. That's what rhymes with oranges. They were selling California. These golden apples come from a place where the sun smiles happily upon the groves. Don't you want to move there?
Yes.
Yes, please. Packing houses created 3 different kinds of labels. One for high-grade fruit, one for mid-grade, and one for the bottom of the barrel. For
the Floridas.
The citrus was small, poorly textured, or
fugly for Florida.
Fugly.
Ugly.
Let Urban Dictionary. Let Urban Dictionary know.
Hello, Urban Dictionary.
yeah, what? It's an apple. That's how we say hi, because we're Urban Dictionary. Low-grade, ugly-looking fruit needed labeling too, you know. One brand called Mutt and read, not much for looks, but ripe, sweet, and juicy. Another brand was called Camouflage. The quality is on the inside.
Oh, that makes me sad.
I know. I feel like they're describing me.
They're like the Jelly Belly jelly flops, like the defective jelly beans, which I love. These are the oranges they would sell while you're waiting in line at Ross.
We know that you had to beat up a small child to get these chinos, but here's some really bad looking oranges. They need love.
Want some mutts?
Lithography was used to create the labels because it was one of the only ways at the time to mass produce images. But as time went on, they eventually switched to zincography, which I'm trying to get a better hold on the idea of both of them. One of them used stone and the other one used plates. I'm still kind of confused. No. They both ended up on paper. In the 1890s, Max Schmidt, a San Francisco printer, got into the business of designing, printing, and selling orange crate labels. The important thing here was that he was not a grower. He saw an opportunity to work with growers.
I had to write that phrase so many times, and you can't say he's not a grower. You gotta find a better way to say that.
And I just stopped my boots right through that. This guy's a grower. He's a growther.
He was the opposite of a shower.
Schmidt saw an opportunity to step up the quality of labeling fruit crates, and he went for it. His staff artists were Othello Machete and Archie Vasquez, who was an LA native. Together, Schmidt lithography created a significant genre of folk art, the orange crate label. Although most growthers used colors in labels, which was important for showing California, these Schmidt labels used vibrant colors, later made famous by painter Maxwell Parrish. Colors with subtlety. There was apricot, cobalt blue, sea green, cinnamon. They were really subtle colors.
Was there orange?
It was either red or yellow. They couldn't figure it out. They used real oranges. They just hinted down. It was part of the lithography.
I think I read that the question was which came first, the orange, the fruit, or the orange, the color? And I think it was the fruit.
Really? Oranges made orange?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Orange is the new orange.
How bizarre. It's we've never seen that color before.
It was all very hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
What's an orange? What would grow here?
Schmidt encouraged each grower to collaborate with him in the creation of an individual label, and then the game was stepped up significantly. The orange box label artists were mainly working in lithographs, doing a wide variety of commercial artwork like show cards and posters and ads and business forms and stock certificates. They were part of a company, so you don't just do fruit crate labels. It was part of your job. It was just one of the things you did. Label design was a high-pressure job. Staff artists were expected to work hard and produce quality work quickly. Consequently, there was a high turnover among lithograph house artists. You got tired of it, and then you left and you went somewhere better, or you started your own company where you didn't have to do fruit crate labels.
You went to Disney.
And then you begged to be fired from Disney. Many became freelance artists or switched firms often. And since this was a commercial work, it couldn't be signed. You were an artist cog, and you worked in a corporation. You have to like the corporation as a whole. You can't be
the sound of this. Now, this is the America I want to live in. Ayn Rand's America.
You shut up and put your head down. Nameless. So let's name a few artists, because they're very rarely named. Ambrose Brenninger was the head of instructor of the Brino College of Lithography that taught many young artists how to work on these crate labels. The most influential was Charles Everett Johnson, who was a native from Gilroy, which is up on the 14 freeway. He was working at Lord & Thomas, who was the main ad agency for Sunkist. He was working there, and he was in charge of the Sunkist accounts in the meaty years, the 20s to the 40s. He operated a freelance studio in LA with such beautiful fruit crate labels as the Sunny Cove labels, which, saying that without you knowing, I'm just talking about an ad, but we'll put pictures up.
It was the they do exist of their day.
Exactly.
There was the beef.
I was just trying to put that phrase in my mouth. Like the beef, which is where it went.
Got orange. Just orange.
The color of the fruit. Duncan Gleason was one of his employees who was a fine artist. Andrew Loomis was another one who worked, aside from fruit labels, he worked on Coca-Cola tray illustrations. Sam Hyde. Trays.
Like the things you would carry them, like the fruit crates of soda bottles?
I didn't think about that. I thought there was like TV dinner trays. All that came to mind, didn't investigate, but that's probably what they meant was the carriers for soda.
Either way makes just as much sense.
Either way, they're irrelevant now. Sam Hyde Harris, an award-winning poster artist and easel painter in LA. Earl Cordry, Jimmy Swimmerton was a cartoonist. Adrian Apple, like apples and oranges. I assume people told him that joke all the time.
Traitor.
Ralph Baker, C.A. Beck. Ted Clark was a prolific artist who worked on fruitcake labels. J. Frank Derby studied in Los Angeles. He was the one who created the Orange Queen label that we lost our poo over at the Archive Bazaar.
Yeah, is that the one I took?
Yeah, that's the one you don't want.
It's not the one with the cherubic little boy sitting on his belly. It's the lady.
It's a lady and she's pretty. The labels of Charles J. Dickman are really nice. They lovely California designs.
She must not have been from Florida.
Or else she'd have one eye.
And be turned to juice.
Felix Martini did a Highland Grove design that I think is really nice. He would travel around California, just do oil paintings of landscapes and then would like sell them to people. So around 1907, the Fruit Growers Exchange was prospering and were shipping California oranges in record numbers. So I started thinking about advertising in more earnest ways. They were doing spectacular, providing the packaging and shipping for growers, but now the exchange created the task for refashioning the American diet so that oranges would be included. It's very much like Inception, like we want to make them want it. We want you to ask us for a thing that you don't know about.
We can't just tell them they want it. They have to know that they want it.
And they also need to know what it is first. The orange would put to rest the anxieties of urban Americans. They would restore
what a sentence.
I know. The orange was going to restore their health, vigor, and make them want to be one with nature again. If you were an urbanite who lived in like Chicago at the
most urban place you can think of, Des Moines.
You jumped ahead.
Is Des Moines really coming up?
Yeah.
Man, I must be some sort of witch man.
Some sort of orange witch man. The exchange would convince millions of Americans to eat millions of oranges. That was their job, and they actually pulled it off. To do this, they needed a national campaign, and for that, they needed help. There was some reluctance among board members of the exchange to put too much money into advertising because they wanted to concentrate more on banking on California's appeal instead of creating a brand and capitalizing it, because then nothing would separate them from the many growers out there in the rest of, in like Florida or whatever. It seemed like the trick was to do both. Create a recognizable brand name while still using the appeal of the Golden State to sell the idea of sunshine-baked oranges. The exchange partnered with Southern Pacific's E.O. McCormick and allocated $10,000 towards sending a special orange train to Iowa, promoting the oranges for health, California for wealth is the tag they
Getting
went with.
Close to Des Moines.
Iowa was the center of the campaign, specifically Des Moines.
Boy,
and I cannot figure out why Iowa, but it was just probably, I'm sure they took a study like it's dead.
It goes great with corn.
In March of 1908, it was declared Orange Week in Iowa. Much like nowadays when it's like National Dog Day out of nowhere. It's like that. It was like, hey, we're making a thing, buy oranges. And the area would be granted with oranges by the carload direct from the beautiful groves of California, the ad read. The choicest orange groves in the world, which, sure. The exchange was working with an advertising group called, like I said, Lord and Thomas, which now goes by Foot, Cone, and Belding, FCB Global. They should have stayed with Lord and Thomas. In creating a 3-colored newspaper ad in black, green, and orange promoting the oranges. It contained a cartoon by Dan and
Jean were part of this?
Dan, Dean, and Jean were part of this. They're the new Peter Paul and Mary.
One boy for everyone.
There was a cartoon by J.N. Ding Darling. You can see why it was hard for me to say. J.N. Ding Darling. And it was given space in the Des Moines Register. This was the first print ad for the California Oranges, running in the March 2nd Register of 1908. A lecturer was hired for Orange Week in Iowa to tour larger towns in Iowa and elaborate on the many advantages of the orange industry. While the nation saw an increase of orange consumption, business in Iowa gained a stunning 50% after Orange Week.
My God.
Yeah, it worked. While creating the campaign for Iowa, it was suggested that instead of using the exchanges...
If you peel it.
Yeah, so when they came up with the name, Daniel mentioned this already, so I'm just going to go over it one more time. While creating the campaign in Iowa, it was suggested instead of using the exchange's name as a brand to reiterate the Southern Californian Fruit Growers Exchange.
Well, it was just
California Fruit
Growers,
CFGE.
Because it wasn't just the South anymore.
But
the South will rise again, much like orange prices.
Am I right? That's the comedian that had to tour Iowa that week. Am I right? I mean, this thing's wrapped already. I mean, Someone suggested as a brand name Sunkist, Kissed, a kiss by the sun. Got a blister in the sun. Some board members resisted this because so many dealers already were familiar with the exchange's name. They thought they might lose business if they confused people, but they told them go suck a lemon, which they could have. They were ample at the time.
That would only help business.
They adopted the brand name Sunkist with a T instead of the SSED, so now we have Sunkist. Sunkist spoke to both the sunshine in California and the orange itself. It was, it was kissed by the sun. The exchange...
It's perfect.
Peggy,
we did it again. It's perfect.
It's a little bit different, but it's perfect.
Peggy, don't tell me what happens past season 2. It's a spoiler. I'm not there yet.
Peggy, who does Negan kill? Peggy.
Peggy, by God. Peggy, please tell me. Did Negan make the Coca-Cola theme song? Peggy, did Negan kill modern advertising?
Did Negan kill a radio star?
Say it again, so Peggy. Peggy, does Walter White make it? Peggy, please.
Does the C word get him, or is it the G word gun? Hey.
Peggy, for the love of God, tell me one thing. Who shot JR?
It was a dream that we all had. As a nation, we had a dream together, but he's alive. All right. The exchange became the first farmer group to advertise a perishable product in a national campaign. And a year later, the exchange registered the trademark Sunkist. They were the first group, the co-op, that did this.
What year was this?
Around 1908. To ensure that each little stamped sticker stayed on the piece of fruit, the exchange offered a promotional gift to consumers. For every 12 wrappers and 12 cents a consumer turned in, they would receive a sharp-pointed spoon for eating oranges cut in half.
What?
So when you have a
sharp-pointed spoon?
So when you have an orange, you cut it in half and you want to dig stuff out. It's like a spoon, but
like
it's
a deep dish, nature's deep dish pizza.
Exactly, nature.
That's so weird to think why there's little stickers on oranges now.
Yeah.
They don't come in crates anymore, so we have to put these stickers on.
Yeah. The spoon idea, though, the sharp point spoon, was a success. They had thousands of orders for that, and the exchange had to add knives and forks to the offer. The trademark replaced more than 200 individual brand names that were being used in 1901, dominated more like. With acts like these, the orange and California were becoming interlocked as a symbol. So 1914 is the next year that the exchange would make a huge waves with advertising for California oranges. In that year, consumption of oranges by Americans had increased by 79%.
That's ridiculous.
From the next to no orange years.
People were so gullible.
The rubes. Every time I read, when I was doing research, I'm like, you just pull a truck up and you say it's for sale, they'll buy it. Country bumpkins. That being said, I give money to everybody.
That being said, I own an orange truck.
Would you like to buy some oranges? I can't seem to sell them. In 1885, there were no oranges sold. So their intent now was to push American values onto Americans even more and somehow make you want
American values onto
Americans. They created
they're
values. Recreating values. And don't you want to be sunshine? Yeah. Don't you find morals good? I don't know, maybe. Don Francisco, the future ad man for the exchange, was at the time was a fruit inspector. Don's a fruit inspector. But moving up the ranks at Lord and Thomas, Francisco continued pushing for oranges to be part of the daily diet and pushed for it to be a breakfast food, since breakfast is a habit meal. Everyone has breakfast. He also believed that selling California meant selling oranges. He knew that these things were interlocked. In 1914, the exchange ran their first ad in a national circulating periodical, the Saturday Evening Post, which was a big deal. Not only because the Post was seen by millions of Americans, but it also seemed to echo and reinforce the image of modern America. Advertising in magazines wasn't exploited at the time, but it was about to be. Francisco became the advertising manager in 1916, and him and a guy named Robert P. Crane, who worked for Lord Thomas as a copywriter, his main account was Sunkist. They hit upon a cluster of advertising themes: health, domestic happiness, prosperity, respectability. That would all be accomplished if you ate an orange, basically. That an orange from California.
You want to be respected?
Eat an orange.
You want to be wealthy?
Eat an orange.
You want to cure your scurvy?
California orange. None of that Florida stuff. California. Making the orange part of breakfast was difficult, but he solved it when he found a functioning juice extractor, and so they ran the campaign Drink an Orange. Now you think something like orange juice was just come upon naturally, like a woman gets tired of chewing, so she squeezes it into a cup, like an organic process that seems so obvious that everyone partakes.
Why does it have to be a woman? Why can't men invent anymore?
Because I wouldn't want it.
Squeeze through those burly paws? No.
He's trying to compete with me. If a woman does it, it's motherly. It's nice. If a man does it, what do you want from me? You trying to tell me that I can't do that too? You'd think it's like a thing that generations had you just squeeze an orange and nope. Team of admin sitting around screaming at a fruit. Why can't we make more money off of you? How do you make more money for us? Orange juice was being pushed by the exchange's advertising men as part of a healthy breakfast regime or ritual, however they wanted to push it. They were intent on creating a juice habit. Sunkist quickly developed its own electrically powered juice extractors and offered it at a cost to fountain operators. And by 1932, 66,000 juicers were in operation, and Sunkist could claim that drinking orange juice had turned into a ritual. It was being marketed as
so weird.
It is so weird. It was being marketed as being better than artificial drinks.
It's not even the best juice. Apple's better.
It's not as cold.
I mean, I guess the pulp can kind of freeze a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I can't have oranges or orange juice because I've acid reflux, so I had to say wave goodbye to that. So I gotta.
The California dream will never be yours.
I just drink alcohol instead, which is
the new California dream.
By 1922, they could quote doctors' studies in claiming that oranges contained something called vitamins, spelled vitamine at the time. Vitamins. And when they were being used, they were saying that in ads, juice and vitamin C were good and good for you, helps keep the body young. These campaigns were directly aimed at middle-class hopes for a good moral life, and by doing so, further linked these hopes with a subliminal association to Southern California. After they ran their first ad in Saturday Evening Post, they spent 2 years after that placing advertisements in over 500 daily newspapers and more than a dozen national magazines, as well as recipe books, and continued promoting on posters you'd see on billboards, on streetcars. Francisco was also working on creating quality crate labels still. He was very influential in label design of the 20s with these principles. The label should be designed and the brand should be selected with the buyer in mind. The brand name should be short, and both the brand name and the label should be simple. The brand name and the label should be prominent. The label should suggest the contents of the package. The label should be pleasing and artistic. The label or the brand name should suggest the source of the fruit. Crate labels in the 20s to the 40s, they all had these sort of things. They're like, oh yeah, there's a giant font there, simple name, there's a little scene there, and everything's really simple.
So is Don Francisco is a person.
Yeah.
His first name is Don.
Yeah, he didn't work on a mission.
Okay.
Yeah, Donald. Yeah, Donald Francisco.
Is that where Donald Duck orange juice comes from?
We figured it out. He's Donald Duck.
Isn't Don Francisco also a coffee brand or something?
I don't know. I could just think of Sanka.
That's him.
Yeah, that's him. Among other things, they push oranges for health. This is healthy for you. It's good for you. This is going to keep you alive. Oranges were prominent in these images, but you'd see themes that existed before that Francisco thought could relate to health and prosperity, an exotic element of Southern California. Some imagery you'd see women and children, you see birds and animals, entertainment properties, which was kind of weird. Things like Caesar, the chic Egyptian, Cleopatra, Don Juan. Also brands like actor, film star, Hollywood, Broadway, coming out of Pomona and Downey. You saw storybook characters, stylized images. There's a really nice one of Art Deco peacocks with a little individually wrapped orange, Art Deco butterflies, you had fairies. They got really creative and fun. So the ability for Americans to travel across the country was becoming much easier as our ability to communicate longer distances was more available to us. Although it was 40 years after railroads were expanding out, the radio was connecting the nation together too. After World War I, which at the time they were calling the only World War we're going to have, commercial broadcasting began.
And yet we still keep calling it World War I. World War Prime.
World War Gold. Commercial broadcasting began near the start of the 20s, and presidential election results could be broadcast. Prize fights, radio serials were like reaching the living rooms of American
homes. That's another
homes.
way they tried to get us to eat cereal.
The Shadow is eating Lucky Charms. I don't know, a cereal at the time. They didn't have cereal. They had powdered milk and oatmeal.
Nothing was lucky back then.
Yeah. You're going to listen to some Irishman trying to eat cereal? What's going on? I thought we lived in America.
Powdered milk and dead tree leaves. That was their cereal.
Throughout that decade, automobiles became more and more popular, and by the 30s, 1 in 5 Americans owned one. Then the Depression hit, and then you had to sell it. Cars also ruined the picturesque Los Angeles blue skies that you would see in fruit crate labels, and smog was another 10 years away, so great.
I'll be getting to that.
Americans were putting an emphasis on the good life, full of sunshine and health and youth and
it's
gold.
A good life.
Be nice to the boy.
Be nice to the boy.
Be nice to the boy.
Our favorite Twilight Zone episode.
Be nice to the boy.
Which brings us to our mid-episode plug. Listen to our Twilight Zone episode on This is Rad, the podcast.
We had a lot of fun.
With
Kyle Clark.
Kyle Clark from The Nerdist and other things and comedy, and Matt Burnside and Natalie Hazen.
And us.
We're there too.
We're there too.
Unfortunately. Listen to it. Proceed.
People living in cold Midwest towns looking for warm temperatures, people living in that hellhole that was New York or other big cities were looking for natural, beautiful landscapes. So these orange ads were like, I don't want to say it's all they had, but it was like, oh yeah, I'll go west. There was an unsaid westward expansion tone to some of it, and with that, you better believe you could make a buck from that. Money, 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 money.
That's the sound the trains made going out to California. Money, 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 money.
With the radio once again, the exchange is looking how to use this to advertise. They have enough money to experiment, and since that old noise box is popular, why not squeeze some orange juice all over it? Sunkist sponsors.
Please don't do that.
You have to buy another one.
Somehow I feel like orange juice is much more. You'll get so much more electrocuted than with any because it's so acidic.
Yeah, it's an explosive device. They use it in C4.
You talking about C4? Duncan.
Sunkist sponsors the first ever commercial radio broadcast between California to the East Coast. They do that. The first company to use motion picture stars on the radio as well, Sunkist.
Really?
Yeah.
What station was it? KSUN?
Yeah, no, I think it was one of the CBS stations, I believe. In 1928, Sunkist sponsored a program hosted by famed Hollywood gossip monster Luella Parsons. Parsons was one of...
Gossip monster.
Gossip monster. It's funny, I kept reading her name, like, how do I know that name? And I looked it up, like, oh, that's how, and like, because everyone hated her. Parsons was the first American movie columnist, and she was pretty hated in the Hollywood community since her opinions would affect box office receipts. It's said that William Randolph Hearst kept her around because she praised Marion Davies, who was his mistress. She was incredibly popular in the newspapers of the day. On the program, she would have featured TV stars where they would discuss the juiciest, pun intended, gossip. In between catty remarks, Parson would hawk oranges and other Sunkist products. That's how it was done in the day.
This rumor of an affair brought to you by Grove Valley Oranges.
It hasn't gotten better if you watch shows or like answer a phone. They're like, obviously, oh, I have the new Apple here. What's that? I'm talking to you on my new iPhone right now. So it like it's gotten better.
We've gone from oranges to Apple. Think about it, everybody.
Think about it.
It's the new California industry. It used to be oranges. Now it's
Apples. Somebody says country.
Interesting.
I'm not sure if the description I read was for another Sunkist program or they just didn't want to mention Parsons, but from a description I read, it ran every Wednesday for half an hour. It featured colorful Spanish music, Spanish in quotations, interspersed with the announcements on the superior richness, healthfulness, and flavors of Sunkist oranges and orange juice. That was just like plugs, Spanish music, plugs, Parsons.
It's like watching an infomercial.
Yeah.
But that was like the only entertainment. All stations were broadcasting infomercials back then.
I don't know if it was called the Sunkist Musical Cocktail Show or if that was another Sunkist Parsons radio. But anyways, there's an LP that exists and it's digitized if you want to hear it online. And you can hear Ann Harding talk about Rudolph Valentino, which is like every description of me talking about I Love Lucy. It's like, yeah, Clark Gable, whoever that is talking about Gina Lollobrigida, whoever that is. Her best frenemy was another gossip columnist, Hedda Hopper, and she got her own Sunkist show in 1939, 10 years later. Hedda Hopper's Hollywood, which played on CBS stations in smaller American cities like Portland or Pittsburgh. Hedda Hopper had an even worse reputation. She was the most hated, the most arrogant columnist in Hollywood. I
think she wore crazy hats.
I think so too, yeah. I think I saw a picture of her with a crazy hat. It's rumored that Charlie Chaplin left America in the 40s because of Hopper's constant attacks on him for his sexual prowess, politics, and communist affiliation.
Yeah, that's why he left.
We didn't scare him away with saying we were going to arrest him for having sex with young women. I'm wondering if this is the same trip where, upon trying to come back to the government, wouldn't let him in because of his ties to communism. Consult Red is a new blacklist for that.
Also, he was Chinese.
I think you might be thinking of Charlie Chan.
Oh, no. All of those Halloween idea costumes.
I'm Charlie Chaplin. I'm sure you're not. Pretty sure that you're not Charlie Chaplin. Anyways, she had a show because oranges needed to get sold. It aired 3 times a week for 15 minutes on CBS until 1942. Both of these shows, as appealing as they sound now, were doing the job of attracting people to Hollywood and showcasing the real-life dramas of southern part of the Golden State.
So is Orange is the New Black not an advertisement by Sunkist?
I keep watching. They sound chickens to me. Sunkist would take out space in magazines where stars would share their recipes that used oranges. Myrna Loy of The Thin Man had a "Here are my 4 favorite orange recipes" full-page ad. Her 4 favorite: orange ginger ale, orange Charlotte.
Wait a minute now.
That sounds pretty good.
I like that.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Orange Charlotte.
What's that?
It's a dessert. Fruit meat salad. Sounds wrong.
Oh, God. Don't make us mince food from
40s one more time. And the Sunkist salad bowl, which feels like the same.
Whoa. What was that, Phil? It was a base of cream cheese, and then you top that off with wet orange, and then on top of that you put the rinds. Salad.
And you cover it up with lettuce just so you don't have to look at it.
But like the lettuce that's barely not paper.
Under her recipes, there's a blurb that starts with the headline, "How oranges aid health." It also states that it has vitamin C, A, and B, and calcium contained. Also, Hitler's scared of them. I was just trying to think of how Americans would sell oranges. Hitler doesn't like them. You hate Hitler? Eat oranges. We're going to turn these into bullets. By the 30s, the naturalistic advertising of landscapes and healthy cherubs in overalls eating oranges was starting to phase out, and a new approach of commercial art was stepping in now that fruitcake labels were becoming less of a selling tool, less than billboards and magazine ads. After Francisco came the new Sunkist ad manager, William Gessinger, who started in 1925 and worked with Sunkist until like the mid-30s. They wanted to branch out and see their ads affect all types types of Americans, from rural mountain people to busybody professors in New England. Gessinger relied heavily on statistics and surveys. Francisco had begun this in his campaign, but Gessinger literally went door to door inside homes and asked harder questions. From his assessments, which took years to collect an insane amount of data, they were able to drop things like demographics and age, if it was rural and urban. Apparently, 71% of the food dollar was spent by women. Urban dwellers, who made up 59% of the total population, spent 70% of the $9.7 billion on food every year. They were discovering how to implant the want for oranges still. Aside from continuing on radio and in magazines, they also began hitting up larger grocers, and then by 1940, half of all stores retailing citrus displayed California oranges in their windows. Again, due to what the orange already symbolized, health and sunshine, the orange itself is a beautiful object, so of course it's display worthy.
Behold, I hold in my hands a noble orange. You're cute. I'm going to call you a cutie.
Citrus fairs and orange shows have been popular since the early years of the 20th century, taking place in San Bernardino mostly, a little out of county, but what do you want? By the 30s, they became national orange shows, and their ads used some of the orange crate labels as posters for the events. In 1932, the show commemorated George Washington's 200th birthday, and they also celebrated...
Still alive and kicking.
They also celebrated the 32...
Because of oranges.
So it's keeping him alive, and he wants to be dead, but we won't let him.
No, and the nation needs him now more than ever.
They celebrated the 32 Olympic Games when they came to town, which is pretty cool. They had a big to do. It was part theme park, part trade show, part agricultural exposition, and part theater. There was fireworks and oranges, obviously. Thousands of people would come to these orange shows.
We forgot the oranges.
In the 40s, almost at the end of World War II, which was the second of the World Wars, the exchange was awarded...
Second of many to come.
The exchange was awarded with the War Food Administration's A, like the grade, A flag in recognition of outstanding achievements in the production of essential food. This was presented to the Exchange Orange Products Company, which dealt with the Sunkist Orange Products Division. Words.
Mm-hmm.
Sunkist was the first company in Southern California to get this, and the second in the state to receive this. This was like a big deal. By the 1950s, everything was starting to change. Chain supermarkets were taking over small grocers, and packing houses were being converted. For the containers for oranges were changing. The era of fruit crate labels ends in the 50s when cardboard replaces wood, as wood was too expensive. The cost of labor for assembling boxes rose, and cardboard containers were developed to withstand worse weather conditions. Paper labels and cardboard proved to not get along very well. The new cardboard boxes contained simple product identification designs pre-printed on the boxes already. That was the end of the era for fruit crate labels. In the 70 years that they existed, from 1880 to the late 50s, some 8,000 designs were created used on over 2 million boxes of oranges.
Ridiculous.
By the 50s, the end of the aggressive orange advertisements, or at least the golden age, was coming to an end. The reason was simple: they won. Los Angeles and Southern California were full of suburbs, and post-war Americans were just riddled with PTSD and civil rights violations. They were here. There was no more room to do oranges here. Now that people were here and realizing that, yes, this is the land of sunshine, but also of smog and traffic and people, in 1952, the California Fruit Growers Exchange officially changed their name to Sunkist. And they're headquartered in Sherman Oaks, the building you can see off of 101. Yeah! And for a company that created such beautiful imagery, that building is plenty boring.
I think it's nice.
It's okay.
It says Sunkist on it. I keep wanting to, I gotta get a picture of this for the podcast, but how
many accidents are you going to cause trying to do that?
How many more lives must be lost for Sunkist?
In the 60s, Sunkist began airing television commercials, but concentrated, pun intended, on lemons and lemons on black and white TVs. Okay. In 64 was when Oranges, the foundation of the company, got its own TV commercials, and the following year, 1965, they broadcast in new color televisions. A newspaper.
They could only get orange in the early days. We only said one color.
I want that blurry red orange. Newspaper coupons were beginning to be used more commonly in the late 60s, and Sunkist was all over that. Some landmarks through the last 60, 70 years. In 1977, the year disco and punk had America shouting, "Leave us alone." Sunkist licensed its trademark for the bottling and marketing of orange soda. Who trademarked orange soda?
Mel from marketing.
In 1990, Sunkist revenues topped the $1 billion mark in a single year, and 3 years later, Sunkist, formerly the Growers Exchange, is believed to be the first agricultural cooperative in the country to reach 100 years of consecutive service.
Wow.
They did it.
By
Son
God,
of a gun, they did it.
Son, S-U-N. Of a gun, G-O-N.
G-O-N.